Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and this is the true crime case of Evelyn Dick. Just before I start this story, I want to issue a short disclaimer that this video is for educational purposes only and all of the information has been sourced online and compiled into this video. I will leave links to my sources in the description below. Now onto the story. Evelyn Dick was born on the 13th of October 1920 in Beamsville, Ontario. Her parents were immigrants from Scotland called Donald and Alexandra McLean. Shortly after Evelyn's birth, the family moved to 214 Rosslyn Avenue in Hamilton. Her father Donald worked for the Hamilton Street Railway as a streetcar conductor and later attained an office position which gave him access to company revenue. The McLeans seemed to live well. They had large sums of money in their bank account and Evelyn would be seen shopping around town with handfuls of nickels. This led to rumours in the community that Donald was dipping into the accounts of the Hamilton Street Railway. Evelyn's parents encouraged her to mingle with the upper class, to become recognised and marry a wealthy man to maintain their luxury lifestyle. Her parents moved her from public school into Loretto Academy, a prestigious school attended by the daughters of the elite. In order to increase her reputation, she would host parties at the Royal Connaught Hotel and spend money freely on her acquaintances. Evelyn was an attractive young woman who spent a lot of time at parties and on the arms of much older men. In 1941, she fell pregnant and gave birth to her daughter Heather in 1942. At the time, having a child out of wedlock was greatly frowned upon, and this fueled rumours about Evelyn in their community. In response to these rumours, Evelyn concocted a story that she was married to a military man who was currently overseas and went by the surname White. Evelyn fell pregnant again and gave birth to a stillborn baby in the summer of 1943. In 1944, Evelyn fell pregnant once again and gave birth to a son she called Peter David White on the 5th of September. Questions were raised once again when Evelyn didn't return home with Peter, but instead told her mother that she had given him up for adoption. To this day, no one knows who fathered these children. In June of 1945, Alexandra split from her husband Donald, and she, along with Evelyn and Heather, moved to an apartment in downtown Hamilton. During this time, Evelyn met John Dick. John was a streetcar driver and told her mother that she would be marrying him after only a month of dating. Her mother was taken aback by this, as at the time she believed that her daughter was dating a man by the name of Bill Bohozuk. The wedding took place at the Church of the Ascension on the 4th of October 1945. Evelyn had the reputation for taking many lovers, and Time magazine reported that 5 days after her marriage in October 1945, she committed adultery. Shortly after, she and John separated. On the 16th of March 1946, a group of 5 children found what they believed to be the body of a headless pig lying on the side of Hamilton's escarpment, which locals referred to as the Mountain. Unfortunately, the find was much more gruesome. It turned out to be the torso of an adult male. The head and limbs were nowhere to be found. Police were called and investigators noted that the deep cuts in the torso indicated that someone had tried to cut the torso in two. The remains were identified by John's brother-in-law. John had been reported missing as of the 6th of March by his cousin Alexander Kammerer, who John had been living with after his short-lived marriage to Evelyn came to an end. Evelyn was brought in for questioning by Detective Sergeant Clarence Preston. Evelyn responded to the news of her husband's death and dismemberment by saying, "Don't look at me, I don't know anything about it." And she then proceeded to tell a story of how an Italian hitman had shown up at Evelyn's home looking for John. He had told her that he was going to take care of John for messing around with his wife. She claimed he then left without telling her who he was. A few days after Evelyn's statement, police learned that Evelyn had borrowed a large Packard car from a man named Bill Landig. He reported that the car had been returned to him with blood in the front seat, the seat covers missing, and bloody clothing littering the back. Evelyn had left a note explaining that her daughter Heather had cut herself and that was the reasoning for the blood. When police tested the blood, it was the same type as John's. Evelyn was again brought in for questioning when she told the investigators this time that the Italian man had asked to meet her, and when she arrived she noted that the man had a large sack with him, and he told her it contained part of John. Evelyn went on to state that she drove the man and the sack to the dumping site. Police noted that Evelyn's responses and demeanour seemed inappropriate. They referred her to a psychiatrist who found her to be on the borderline between having a dull normal and moron-like intelligence, a stark contrast to the many who knew her as an extremely intelligent and manipulative woman. Later, Evelyn changed her story once again and signed another statement which read that it was the Italian killers who had killed her husband, and these had been hired by Bill Bohozuk. She took police to a muddy road near Glanford, south of Hamilton, where she said this was the spot where John had been shot in the head. As the investigation continued, police searched Evelyn's home when they made a discovery in the attic of the house. A beige suitcase filled with concrete and contained the remains of a baby boy. This was confirmed to be Evelyn's son Peter, who she said she had given up for adoption. Faced with this turn of events, Evelyn changed her story once again to implicate Bill Bohozuk and claimed that he had murdered the child and John as well. More evidence was found in the basement of Evelyn's father's home: bullet holes in a pipe, a revolver and cartridges, saws and blood-stained shoes believed to belong to John. Evelyn, Bill Bohozuk and Donald McLean were then charged with the murder of John. In October of 1946, Evelyn's case came before the courts. A media frenzy ensued as crowds turned up at the courthouse to catch a glimpse of the Black Widow. In her first trial, she was represented by a lawyer called John Sullivan, and after 9 days of testimony, the jury took only 2 hours to find Evelyn guilty of murder, and the judge sentenced her to death by hanging. On appeal, she was represented by lawyer John Josiah Robinette, known as JJ, who argued that Evelyn's police statements had been improperly admitted into evidence and the judge had not properly instructed the jury. The conviction for the murder of her husband had been overturned. Bill Bohozuk walked freely as well, as Evelyn was their only witness to the crime and she refused to testify. Her father Donald was found guilty as an accessory and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Even though Evelyn's conviction for the murder of her husband was overturned, she was found guilty of manslaughter for the death of her infant son Peter, and was sentenced to life in Kingston Penitentiary, where she became a model inmate. She was released from prison on parole on the 10th of November 1958, having spent only 11 years inside for the death of her son. She was given a new identity and started a life in an unknown city, essentially disappearing. Author Brian Valet, who wrote the book The Torso Murder, The Untold Story of Evelyn Dick, claims that Evelyn married a wealthy man after her release and moved to Canada's west coast, where she lived without anyone knowing of her past. In 1985, Evelyn was granted a pardon under the Royal Prerogative of Mercy, which meant that her file was sealed forever and she no longer had to report to the police or her parole board. No one has ever been convicted for the murder of John Dick. So what do you think of the story of Evelyn Dick? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any true crime cases that you'd like me to cover, then please do let me know. I want to thank you for watching this true crime video, and if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching.